Are we done?
We're just gonna put it on there because he made me put it back together just so he can videotape the daggum thing. So, I'm Adam Fitch. I'm a master GM, Toyota, and Saturn technician. 2014 Jeep Cherokee Latitude. So the first thing we do here, disconnect your negative battery cable if you like. We don't. Take your phlobometer and throw it in the phlobometing floor. Okay, we've got this all loosened and taken apart just for purposes of making this quicker and easier. Air intake tube. Take your two components loose here. You got a plug here for your intake air temperature sensor. Unplug that. Pop your connector retainer for your wiring harness loose there. And it's got a little thing here which is hard to get out. Somebody's broke it previously. Luckily we won't have to fight with that. We're gonna push on this down on your perch on it. Pull that off. We've disconnected this so you can get momentum and movement. And this works itself off there. And throw it in the floor there. Alright, so we got that off. You got your connectors for your perch solenoid. Just push, pull. Now on these, if you want to step around the other side here, on a lot of the connectors, the factory, what they call CPA retention is right here, and it's pushed in, and it's a secondary lock to make sure that it doesn't inadvertently get unlocked. And a lot of people will just do away with them, but all you just do is pop it back, push in, and pull.
So it keeps you from being able to push that tab
push
down?
The tab in down there. Now a lot of people will do this. They decide they just want to get rid of it, and you just pop it out of there. And it'll work the same. It's just you won't have it in there no more. It'll lock. You push this to unplug it. When you push in, you'll hear the retention snap down. Won't come off.
Yeah, there's no way it's going to vibrate.
Exactly. So push.
It has to
pull.
be intentional if it's going to be took off.
And we got wiring harness retainer here. These are actually pretty neat. I like these. These are easy, simple. Just pop them off. They're just two metal jaws that just kind of hold.
Yeah, it's kind of old school like.
Yeah, I like that. And then here we got the same style connector. Now the CPA's already gone on a lot of these because I've already disconnected it and connected it back up. So just push like that. Got another one, the claw style. Just pull it up like that gently. You got your brake booster hose that comes in the back here. Now what I did previously was actually just kind of push against it to break the adhesion. Here we got your fresh air bypass hose that goes to your valve cover. It's also got the jaw style or the slide-on style retainers. Just pop those loose, and then you push on this white clip on your air box, push it in, and pull straight out easily.
I like it.
Now here, this hose I've already removed. It was quite a bear. There's a connection here and here, but it was suction on there. Had a vacuum that actually pulled it really tight, and was having a hard time actually breaking it loose. So what I used was, if I can find it, a style tool like this. Now this one's actually broken off, but this is actually a heater hose removal tool. How it works. Now you have to be careful puncture the hose with it. You want to go in at an angle right at the hose, and as I'm going to put a little tension on it, and you work your tool under. You don't ever want to jab up. You will put a hole in it. And what you're doing is you're working a seal around that hose until it gets in there, and once you do that, you can actually just easily remove that. Spin it out of the way. Alright, when I was first looking at this, because I've never done one of these actually, this is for my niece, looking at the way the actual intake is retained, it's got two metal brackets here with two 10mm nuts. They are removed, so this gives you a little idea. Now, you can't pull up or remove these studs because they've got a washer built onto the back. It will push against those brackets. So what you want to do, instead of trying to fight getting these brackets out way down there and giving yourself a lot of trouble, what I figured out was take these 10mm nuts off. And the reason that it's sandwiched in the front and the back is because you got this bracket here. This bracket's pushing the same way and you can't take the studs out. so you couldn't lift this intake straight up. So what I did was take the 2 10s off. I looked down and noticed there was just an electrical retainer here. I popped that loose, and if you can look down there, there was a wiring harness retainer on that stud that actually is a bolt style stud. So I just removed this, loosened this, and I'm taking this out. I've got it almost out already to show you. That's all that holds this bracket in. So once you take a 13 millimeter and back that stud all the way back, and you may have to push the harness down some because it's in the way. It's really tight, I'm not gonna lie. And that's what you got there, and that's where that retainer for your electrical your wiring harness was on there. And then you can take this bracket and just lay it away, out of the way. That allows for this intake, once you unbolt it, to slide out of this front bracket. Okay, now right here you'll see, come over the top, I've already got them loosened, but you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are your upper plenum or upper intake bolts. And they're 10 millimeter, or you can use a Torx bit. I prefer 10 millimeter. Just loosen them all up, and then you're gonna pull up. Lower will be tight, because I've got it loosened for video purposes. Slide it forward like this, and it comes right out of there. See, that bracket allowed you to move this direction.
And them are the 2 studs
that you can't remove because they've actually got a built-in washer on the back. So if you went to loosen the studs from here and the bracket was on it, it would push this bracket and you would never be able to remove them.
If it
yeah, because they set back pretty far down into the plastic there. So you can see a sandwich condition there and here. So you couldn't remove it vertical unless you loosened one side of it, and this is the easiest way I found to do it. And this is that bracket there that you can see it now. Gives you a better inclination of what you're doing. Basically, you're taking the stud loose here, the 2 10s, and it just folds out of the way to allow your upper plenum to come off. Set that on it. Make sure keep up with your upper intake or lower intake gasket, either way you call it. Oh, they're in here. When I pulled it off, actually 2 or 3 of these were stuck. You can replace them; they are reusable. But I did notice one was gone, and it actually fell off in transition, moving to my car. And these bolts are actually capture bolts. They won't come out unless you force them, so you don't have to worry about flipping it upside down as far as those bolts. All right, these were disconnected just to get the first run at. Remove this isolator, which now you can look and see here. This is actually evidence of mice have been in here chewing at this. You can see where they've clawed and chewed. I already blew the debris out from in between here, but you always want to blow. Take this offset here. Take an air gun. Put rags in here to keep them getting down in your cylinders, and blow out any debris around, because as soon as you pull this out, all that debris can fall right down into your engine block, and then, well, your cylinder heads and into your engine block, and can cause damage. May not, but might. You can just shove them down in there. Another thing is, remember to remove them after you're done with the repair. I've seen that happen on old carbureted engines. Now, I've already got these disconnected, and basically they had the red CPAs in them. I just removed them. And how they remove is you push down on the center and pull out. Same here, same here. Disconnect these 2 electrical harness retainers. These are the injector connectors. Now I could have left these attached, disconnected these here, and laid this back, but this is just the easiest, not the easiest, but the most, the best route to go when you're first doing it. So what you do with these connectors, and see with this loose, I can actually give you a better view on how they come off. They've got the red CPA, like this here, and it's pushed down flat. Now you can't do anything with this connector until you do something with the CPA, so you just pop it up. Now you can go ahead and remove it, or just push down on this black tab here and pull up, and it comes right off. And you can see all that red CPA does is allow that black removal tab to push in. So you can remove it if you want. It's your preference. Removed, not removed. This is my niece's car, so I'm not too worried about it. I did the same thing over here. Disconnected my injectors. Just pulled up on the harness retainers, coils. I'm just going to lay this out of the way. All right, so Now we have the fuel rail is integrated into the lower intake here. Well, I should say integrated, it's actually bolted to it. So this is your main fuel line. Now you want to dissipate the fuel pressure if you can. That would be removing a fuel pump fuse, a relay of something. Start the vehicle before you even take it apart. It'll run the fuel pressure down so you won't have splatter. We're used to that, we do it every day. So we just remove this upper clip, pop it loose. It will snap down like that. Just remove it, pop it up. You can use this or that. Then once you get this up and out, pop it back down again. There's a white clip down below it. I wasn't sure if it was a push or pull. It's not a push. You can't push up on it. I don't believe that I've found. I couldn't get the leverage, and it may. So what I did was just pop it down. Just kind of pop it out. I know it's not easy to see. And this isn't fully pushed up on the fuel line, so it's easier to push.
And you see it starting to come down from the bottom?
Yeah, and then you just kind of see it's got a little ear there, and you can pop it open. Now if there's a better way to do this, somebody can tell me. Just pull that off. So now you have your fuel rail. You can pull these out if you like. It's not going to hurt anything now. Take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 millimeters out, and this just comes out straight out. One little harness retainer there.
And there it is.
And also, just like the top, look at the bottom, verify your gaskets, replace them if you know, whatever you decide to do. We don't have any for this. Now we're down to the old cooler assembly. This is the old cooler assembly. It sits in the valley. Clean these off really good. You can take a brass brush and just kind of brush it. Do not score it. Do not brush or use a steel brush on it. You do not want any gouges in it. Razor blade will do the worst you can do. If you go straight, it'll put gouges in it, and then you got a bad sealing area. And you're not worried about getting the stains. You just want it smooth. The stains are going to be there. Don't use a whiz wheel. The whiz wheel will create grooves and actually take metal off. So whiz wheel, they call them whiz wheels, they call them 3M pads, whatever, will actually take away part of the metal, so you don't have a flat surface anymore. So this discoloration won't hurt anything. Now here you got a CPA on this here. Just push this back, straighten that wire up a little bit. And then there's retention there, and pull. This one down here, oddly, doesn't have a CPA on it. I guess they figured it was in bad enough location they didn't want to do that to you. So you just push in there, pull that out. Alright, now we've got everything except the oil cooler and the coolant hose disconnected.
And it looks like it's something been leaking down in there?
Yeah, actually this oil cooler has been leaking oil. Now it hasn't got to the point. She had a check engine light and a low oil pressure indicator, but she wasn't seeing any oil on the floor when I had it up, and you'll see in a minute. There wasn't actually any oil going over the top enough to get to the bottom, but once we removed that, we found that's the reason they want you to replace the whole assembly, because you'll be back in here replacing because of the oil leak, because of the design. So since we got to take this coolant hose loose, and there's also a coolant port in the bottom, right here, I believe that's it. No, that's not it. Okay, so the coolant comes in this hose and goes right down here.
Okay.
So it travels up and comes back as far as I can see. It's one of these holes. But to give you an idea, you've got one port, and one of these other ports is coolant, so you need to drain your coolant. That's the only reason I'm telling you this.
So that's an oil cooler.
Oil cooler. So coolant runs through the hose, vice versa, one way or the other. Hose or port runs through here, and it actually takes the heat out of the engine oil, because there's coolant running through here. Now let's, next step, make sure your vehicle's cool. We've already taken the cap off.
No pressure.
No pressure. Now we need to drain the coolant. So we removed the undercover. Basically bunch 10 millimeters, easy. You do that don't work on it. So we got our engine bay open under here. You can see there's no oil coming down either side or even up on the top there. So luckily we didn't have an oil issue to where we'd have to clean all that up, because that oil keeps pouring from the top and comes down, gets on the exhaust. It can get to the point you got a catalytic convert here at a very high temperature that it could actually ignite, and you could have an oil fire. I mean, I don't want to scare anybody, but that happens. Now you get that off, you can see the radiator, and you can see coolant's already dripping here. No, we don't have a leak. I've already drained the coolant, but you can see right here, here's your petcock. You just back it out, twist it counterclockwise until it starts draining coolant. Well, thought it would be nice if it was shooting this way. You just come out here, but you're going to have a mess, guys. It goes all the way, and gals, because it's going to go all the way across. So prepare yourself to have a mess, top to bottom. Now, at this point is what we at work we had taken apart. We haven't actually taken anything else loose, so this will be a dry run. So we'll see how this goes. All right, I need to get this clamp off of there. I wonder what type of tool I'm gonna be able to get into there.
How far can you raise that up?
Yeah, after we unbolt it, maybe we can raise it up and then just take this loose. Looks like it's got a hose retainer. Pop this loose. Down on the bottom there, might get some kind of a tool.
Maybe that'll help drain the coolant out of it, so it don't drain
you can do it this way, it'll drain back into the system instead of pouring right in your belly and in the engine oil. Another thing is too, if you take this off and you get a lot of oil into the oil ports, you need to change your oil because you've got coolant in your oil. You're going to create a problem, foaming, lack of lubricant. You can burn your engine up. It may not be a whole lot, but it only takes a little bit to cause damage, rust, corrosion, things of that nature. Alright, so let's go ahead and find the socket here. Now these are actually straight up inverted torques, what they call inverted, which is basically the opposite of a standard torques. As you can see, it's a female style socket onto a male style head there. And this is a E. All the inverted sockets are E8. Torque sockets are T sockets. If you ever ask somebody about a socket, you need to, well, what's an E socket? That's inverted. With the E.
Yeah.
Don't know why they do that, but all I do is work on them. 1, 2. I would say definitely get on them all the way, but I didn't there, so my bad. That looks like it. Oh, there's one more back here in the back. My cameraman's pointing out. Or actually, that's Master Jim. Of course, he won't introduce me, I'm sure. I'm just guy doing a job. Work that up because the oil seal's down there. Now I want to see about getting this retainer off. We may have to cut it. I do not know.
If you take it off this end, pull it out, will that help you any, or is it easier to get to that?
I think it's because it's attached down here. This is the problem. I can't actually go any further because it's attached to the engine block. Yeah, so see if I can get some kind of a tool in there. This is just the trial and error tools right here. Just kind of get in there and see what you can find. You don't want to puncture the hose. You might have to just pull this up. Now we got oil leaking everywhere. And get underneath that.
That cooler's hot if you want to hang on to it and burn yourself.
I'm just pulling the hose retainer up. Okay, there we go. We got it loose. You can see right there how it come loose with that tool there. And you might find a tool that works better.
I have one you like better.
Even though we drained the coolant, we've got a lot of coolant coming out of the center of the block, because a lot of times when you drain the radiator, it'll only drain to a certain level in the block. But it's better to drain the radiator so you don't have oil, coolant coming over into the oil.
Now there are other two sensors in there. Is that NOx sensors?
Yeah, these sensors down here are your NOx sensors. You got one for each bank. You can see this one's closer to this bank. This one's closer to this bank. So it can actually just pick up on knock, which picks up on misfires or detonation. If you're having an issue with that, you can go with the same steps. And there you are right there. You unplug your NOx sensors. You got one Torx, pull it off. Same here, one Torx, pull it off, one connector. I'm not sure if the Pentastar has that problem.
GM and Toyota.
GM and Toyota, yes, we know that. So now, take and get a pair of pliers here. I'm just going to take this loose. Now another thing is when you're maneuvering this, you go over these ports, you're filling your cylinders up with oil or coolant if you hang it over them. So don't hang it over these if you can. I may have. Just I'll double check, make sure there's nothing in the cylinders. Just kind of maneuver that off. Good thing was it was empty. I guess when we pulled it up, most of the coolant run out of it, or was already. This is the old component. Let's see what we've got an old bucket out here. Now our failure is going to be in the oil sending unit back here. It's just a bad sensor.
Is them seals pretty flat?
You can see that the seals are pretty flat, and you can also see some of the distortion, even though they are triangle shaped when you get the new one. Kind of in there you can see. But these plastic housings sometimes will warp, and then the seals don't seat properly. Like right there, it kind of looks like the edge of that is pretty flush, so you may not have got any seal, or hardly any seal out of that. You can see how much higher here is compared to there. And here, right there.
Right. That looks flat.
That's flat, yeah. I'm not exactly sure which O-ring causes the damage. It could be all of them, it could be one. It maybe this one this time, this one next time. It could be all of them. We could have a party, Corona party here. Alright, so we're just gonna...
And they're bad about cracking somewheres here too, I guess I wonder if it's from the filter being removed.
Well, what it is somebody actually, there's two different styles of filters, so I don't have them here. There's another video guy that actually has them on there. You take this out and you put the wrong filter in there, it'll break the plastic cage, and it'll actually create a low pressure, low volume issue. So always use the correct filter. I know you go to certain parts stores, won't name any, and they will give you the wrong thing. Match it up with what you got. Make sure that internal diameter of that cartridge filter and everything looks the same, it's close to the same. Don't go shoving things in there. Square peg, round hole. Luckily, this one comes with a new filter, so when you do drain your oil, you're getting oil change. Go down here and investigate. This is new to me. I'm gonna try to suck some of that oil up and coolant. I think we can use our brake evacuator, can't we?
Ah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Oh, cheap old Harbor Freight.
Dale?
Master Lube Tech.
Dale, the Master Lube Tech.
And master other thingies. Won't mention that. We use this. This is actually a brake evacuator. We use it on mainly brake flushes where you actually deplete the reservoir. You suck it out with this, a lot of air pressure. It sucks the reservoir out. Then you go to each, after you fill it with new fluid, you go to each wheel and you evacuate each wheel, and it takes all the moisture, copper contaminants, stuff like that out. But we're going to use it for this. Also use it to take suck out power steering reservoir before you get the power steering there. It saves you a little mess. You're still going to have oil in there.
It's not very much at Harbor Freight, is it?
No. I think it's about $3,000, minus 1,000 or 2.
Of billable hours?
Billable hours. Increase your billable hours by replacing the snuff guffler. Just a Venturi style, cools it down pretty good. Not be able to get all of it. Don't want to suck my crackers out. Look, even your bolt holes, you want to clean them out. If you want to blow your bolt holes out, I'll show you that in a minute. Got something hung in the end of it. A lot of people have videos and they're showing, oh, this is what you do, this is what you do. They don't actually show what you're actually doing. When you're actually in there and it's like, holy crap. They want to show all this is pretty easy, fun.
Yeah. Polish it up.
Polish it up. Make it look like you work in a bank. The glory of working on cars. Woo, I'm so happy right now. I'm sucking oil into a thing. but it makes you money.
So it does take some time to clean all that out.
It takes time to do the job right. And that's the thing, if you want to do
You
it
could
right.
just leave. Yeah, you don't have to worry about me chopping this up because I think my finger's over the lens all the time, so it.
He's flipping you off the whole time we're videoing this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I need more than 2 views.
He's just trying to tell you what he thinks of you. He does that to me every day at work. We actually work together. If you want to call that. I mean, it's more like bickering than we're telling somebody to go somewhere.
Stealing all the gravy, stealing all the gravy.
That's you, baby.
Now, cleaning all that out, you just take a bigger chance of getting stuff down in them holes. And it's not going to hurt anything if it's got some debris. It's up to the individual how much he wants to clean.
Yeah. Down in here is what he's talking about in these holes, but the debris down in there. That's the degree you want to do it and how much you value what you do. I mean, I don't want that down in there. And some of that oil could be there from when they changed the oil filter, which I didn't see any on the old spout or the top of the spout there. But somebody pulls the oil filter out and just lets her and lets it drain down the side, or starts it up without a filter cap on. Seen that here not too long ago.
Not here.
No, not here.
That's Curly. Three Stooges.
Yeah, it is. And now in the bolt holes. The reason you want to do this, if you got any coolant, any oil, anything down in any hole, hole, it doesn't compress. It's not gonna allow you to put that bolt. It's gonna push something out somewhere, and if it's a weak void there, it'll crack and break at the bottom of that bolt hole out, especially in aluminum. So all you gotta do is take a little spritzer over here, put it by the hole, and just blow it out. Now you know you're not gonna have any issues with improperly torqued bolts and cracking the block, because it is the block. I don't know if it'll cause you an issue or not, but if it cracked to the point it cracked into this oil cooling gallery, and then you got an external leak, you got a bad block. And you just created that just by not cleaning out your bolt holes. The thing with the brass brush, the way it works is, of course they look a lot better when you get them. The brass will bend, the brass will give. The brass will do whatever it decides to do, but hurt what you're cleaning. It will deform, it will back off, it will try not to do anything. It's just basically a light abrasive. So the brass takes the brunt of the work.
And actually, after you get it broke in a little bit, when it really works good, doesn't it?
Yeah. And you're not trying to make these things polished and brand new. None of your surfaces on your block, even if you're doing a head gasket, need to be polished and brand new. They're going to have stains. You polish and make them brand new,
You cause an issue.
you cause an issue. See, there's no scratches, no abrasions, no nothing. You can see the machining, where they machined it. And it just took that little bit of dirt and rubber off. This one's got a little bit more on it. And it looks like scratches there, but that's just the brushes in the oil and dirt. Alright.
And that's just a cheap brush. It's not expensive.
No. A couple dollars you get this and steel brush.
You get an expensive one, it lasts as long as a cheap one, doesn't it?
Yep. Alright, so I just want to take a double look. I mean, you could clean that up some more, but that's about as far as I'm going to be able to get here.
Without pulling the engine and spraying it.
Yeah, or plugging the holes really good, and you'd really have to plug those really good, and using a degreaser and all that.
It's not going to be an issue, so.
It's not going to be an issue. You got enough of it gone to where you don't have as much in there. You're not going to have, I mean, that thing, there's no telling. It's probably I don't know, not a quarter quart, but a lot of oil down in there.
Yeah.
You think about that. Just think about it.
At least a
Just
pint.
think about it. Okay. I'm done with this job. And no, I am not a Chrysler technician. I am not a Jeep technician, but I am doing this.
But you are a technician. Or at least you told me you was.
So that goes there. thing is I can't get this clamp slide back. I think it's adhered to it. So there we go. Probably they like to put a little bit of adhesion or glue on the clamp to keep them on there when they're assembling at the factory. Angle the dangle right. Kerflopper. Pliers up here to kerflopper. Carnubler. Yep, that's my internal air gun working. Alright, so what we're gonna do is you wanna come over here and watch, and I probably should have, and I think I'm going to. Hindsight's 20/20, but always you see something that'll make it a little easier, better to do it. So on O-rings, any O-rings you got? Any style O-rings. If you're putting something together with an O-ring, you get a chance of rolling that O-ring, which is basically it catches on a dry surface and it rolls it or cuts it or chafes it, then you've got an oil leak. Because this actually has to go down in to a hole that's sized for that ring to fit it. So if you put it in there dry, you're gonna have an issue. Now if you use the wrong type of what do you call it, lube or something like that, you don't want to use the wrong lube, right? If you use the wrong type of lube, but it can actually affect the O-rings. If you use something,
heat it away or swell
heat it or swell it, you know, if you use the wrong fluid, it could. So I like assembly goo. I'm not promoting it, but
assembly goober.
Firm tack, paste, adhering firme, if you want to read all that. And it dissolves quickly at operating temperatures, will not clog filters, green color prevents misdiagnosing leaks. It's nice. You can actually stick gaskets up with this and it'll dissipate. It won't hurt anything. It won't hurt the gasket, it won't hurt the O-ring. You might see a little green goo. Yeah, it's not coolant. Yeah. It's assembly lube.
And it won't hurt you.
It won't hurt you. So you just take a little bit around the outside. And that just assures that O-ring is going to slide in there. Now these are flush facing. Once you bolt them down, they're just pushing. So there's not going to be any type of chafing or rolling or rubbing there unless you do this as you're installing that, which you shouldn't anyways. I'm going to just put my goo up. We're using this right now on our recall with the fuel pump O-rings. Makes the slide diffuser work better. Alright, so I seen that right at the last bit because this is the hole we're going into with that. So I was like, oh, that might just save me some troubles. And I don't want to take this apart again.
Chamfered, so that it'll...
Chamfered. You know what chamfered means? It's chamfered. It's basically cut at an angle so it'll accept the seal better. But if it's dry, it'll still chamfer the...
And it'll help you line up your tube.
So I lined that tube up. I can see my bolt holes below these, and I'm just going to easily push down. That way I'm not pushing against those bottom seals this way or that way. You can cut them on the edge of the aluminum, all kinds of stuff. Even if you don't have enough room to do it, you might not, I don't know, but I would not want to take that chance. All right, so if you just watch.
So you work flat rate.
Very fastly. And you can see I'm working slow right now because right now we're doing a video. So if I was doing this for myself and I already done 1, 2, or 3 of these, I'd be done by now. But since Mr. Jim wants this video, here we go. Now, Mr. Jim shows torquing, this and that, and blah, blah, blah. You do always want to hand start all your bolts, but I'm pretty good at it, so.
Depends on your comfort level, I guess.
Comfort level. You cross thread or strip one, it's on you. That's your problem. But I know.
We've all done it.
We've all done it. But I know I'm pretty good at leaving it loose and just kind of let it go. They're clean threads.
Feel it when it goes in, if you feel anything.
So I'm just going to run them down. You can see it kind of lay down there. You always want to go crisscross, especially on something this long. With
you see the actual filter move back and forth.
Yeah, with this long and being plastic, oh lord, you know, you want to make sure. I don't know what the torque spec for this is, but I've got one built into my wrist and my elbow. It's called carpal tunnel and ouch hooking.
And 3 clicks.
So what I'm going to do is, it doesn't have to be extremely tight. I'm sure that's probably going to be an inch-pound torque.
Yeah, I bet it is.
So what I'm going to do is grab my long torque wrench, my long extension. And this is going to take a lot of torque out of it anyway. And like a guy, old guy that, of course he's old. worked on transmissions for years. He never used torque wrench, valve body or anything. He always used a speed wrench. He always knew exactly what it should be, and he never had a failure from it. So it just takes time and effort. But see, you can see I'm just using a couple fingers, just gently. Everybody thinks everything's got to be God awful tight. Well, God is God. Don't be that awful tight. And I'm not saying God's awful. I'm just saying He can make it tighter than you can. Don't do it. So I'm just cinching them down a little bit, make them even. Basically, what you're doing is pulling this platform down. You're pulling against those rings on the bottom. So you're compressing them right now. If you tighten one up, you're tightening one ring on one side, and the housing is sitting like this. You're side loading the whole house. So you're creating yourself a problem there. You can actually distort that ring, and it'd be flatter than the rest of them, or where the ring lands are. You don't have to go around that many times, but as you can see, I'm using a thumb and 3 fingers. And usually the way I do it anyway.
As you take pressure on one, it takes some of the pressure off of the other, so you got to go back through and make sure they're all pulled down the same.
The other one, you won't get that one started, or you won't run it down. It could be fighting against the side of the actual bolt hole in that hole. Now you can feel it now. And you got a pretty good bit of resistance there.
This is one of the parts you want to be patient with and not try to rush it.
The reason being is because they have a problem here. They know they have a problem. It's because of the heat, the oil, the coolant, everything. They know they got issues there. So there's an issue with this part with mating. Yes, you should torque it, but I'm going to do.
And as you gain experience, you'll know different things you can do without a torque wrench. And if you need torque, then you can look up the torque specs on it.
And this is probably a little tighter than what they recommend, but I know kind of a feel. And it's actually inside that oil cooler housing. If you look at it here, you got metal inserts that go all the way through. So it actually keeps you from crushing the plastic. It's just pulling the plastic down with this metal insert. All I'm doing is actually making sure I've got enough pressure on that insert to keep this whole assembly down flush.
Not backing off.
And not backing off. But if you tighten this side down and you leave this side loose and you hammer this down, you're flexing that whole assembly. You're twisting it. You don't think so, but you are. You're putting a slight flex on it. It will warp. It will kill it. It may not happen this time. Next time. All right, we got our, always double check here. Got our coolant hose. I'm gonna install our retainer. We've got that connector and that connector. So I'm going to push in the bottom connector and seat it. Oh look, it's the opposite direction on this one to where they installed the sensor in this one. You can actually unplug it.
Oh, I see.
Which, I mean, I don't think that's every one of them deal.
Well, it's pipe thread, so none of them is.
None of them are going to be in the same spot. Yeah. And see, this one was this way. No, it was that way. But now it's upside down. It's just cool. Just get that plugged in and then. Yeah, she's good, and that CPA's flush.
And I see I use Teflon tape here, and then I don't know what they use there. Is that a just different type of Teflon tape?
It's a thread sealer, a liquid thread sealer. They dip the sensor, and you can see this like a rust-looking color. On that one, they actually dipped it, and they let it dry, and then they install them later. This one here, they used a Teflon tape or a paste or something. It's just whatever they decide to use.
Some of them you can't use Teflon because it won't ground to the surface, which that's in plastic, so it's got its own ground.
That's true. Not on this application. Senior Jim. Alright, now we go for a lower intake. Throw some trash. If I forget something, Jim. No, I didn't.
I'll tell you tomorrow.
I know you will. You're not here.
So you colopter, and it's got O-rings on the bottom. He made sure that all the O-rings was still in the lower intake.
Most intake rings are reusable. I know in the field in Toyotas, or most vehicles, GMs, we reuse them. You feel a little wary about, replace it.
Yeah.
So on this, I'm not going to use that torque because it is a 8 torque. And I am going to work my way around it.
Yep.
And when you put this on and you get both your CPAs in, connector assurance, retainers, make sure you pull in and out. People get them on there and they push these in and they haven't got over that ring and it pops off. You're driving down the road, blowing fuel everywhere. You're asking for a fire. You're going to hurt somebody. Okay, back to what we were talking about. All our lower intake bolts tightened. And round. Bunch of different back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Three fingers. Alright, I just kind of mull over it a couple times. Best way not to miss something is not to rush through it. Just look back over, you know. Put your fingers on it. You'll see me do this 100 times. Because I'm actually, hey, I didn't even take it off. Hey, it's there, it's there, it's there, it's there, it's there. There, everything's tight. Actually,
we don't want to do it again.
Slide this along. And if you leave these out, most people are like, oh, don't need this. The thing is, this actually helps keep noise down. So your engine will sound louder in the vehicle, out of the vehicle. If you don't care, you want high performance Jeep Latitude front wheel drive car. Ooh, you're special. You can leave it off. But it also keeps the heat in. And as me and Jim found out the other day, well, we already knew it, but that cover that's on the floor there, actually, you think it's hole seam? It actually keeps noise down, and airflow comes from the fan and goes over the engine. It keeps it close to the engine and blows it out the back, so it actually reduces heat on the engine. We took that off and we got a blast from the past. Blast the heat. About my eyelashes off. Alright, so the way I took it apart, you're gonna slide it in here. Pull this up here. Into those two.
And got it into the two
where the studs were in the brackets. So you got both of these studs in the bracket. Hold this up. Don't ever slide against your sealing rings, your gaskets, or whatever. You're liable to rake one out. You rake one out, roll it. You're taking it back apart. You got an intake leak. You're wondering, why does it not run right after I worked on it? Oh, really? It was you. Make sure everything's kind of laid back out of the way. And we're going straight down with it. Right there. It feels pretty flush. If you feel it rocking a bunch, not just this on any intake, you might have a hose under it that's not supposed to be. Wiring harness, whatever. Make sure you don't have a hose that's like, you know, flopped up under it like this, holding it down. It might save you some trouble. So I'm going to roll this bracket back on there, like so. And just for now, just hold it up. I'm just going to put 2 millimeters on there. And just like on Jim's other video, if you didn't watch it, I didn't either.
It's one of my favorite.
Exactly. I go ahead on my intake, any intake, on the intake he was doing on his Toyota, I think it was the fuel leak video, just to put all your bracket bolts, start them, because if you try to do it later and you've already torqued your intake down, it may be in a bind and you may not get them started. Another thing is too, don't ever tighten the bracket bolts up first, because when you tighten these down, you're putting the whole assembly in a bind. So start it finger tight. And if you're having a problem getting one started, maybe the fact that your intake isn't set completely down properly. Everything should line up fairly easy. You shouldn't have to fight anything except this harness. I'm just going to use this. This harness is wrapped really good, so I don't have to worry about tearing up any wiring or anything. I'm just going to use it to push. Just so ever so slightly like this. It's got a pretty good wrap on it. So I'm just going to push it that wide, just push it down so I can just get this started. I mean, I'm barely, you're talking, it looks like I'm grabbing, but it's just a thumb.
Just a light touch.
Light touch. Good man, that's all. So this is still loose, and I'm going to go ahead and start those bottles. Here, pull it down. Now with this, I'm going to go ahead and just run them down pretty good. Because I'm starting in the center, and I've already kind of worked my way out. Right there, I missed. And the more comfortable you get with your tools, you'll feel more comfortable with your job.
Different materials.
Different materials, aluminum, plastic, steel, cast, carbipolate. That stuff they put in the mold. Magnesium. Yes, I've had magnesium on it. Upper intake pins, very soft. Will strip very quickly. That was a upper intake on a Saturn V with a 3.0 Katerra style motor in it, built by Adam Opel. Or Opel in Germany, which was owned by GM. Tunnel, working on cars. Quit beating your hammer, because beating on a hammer or tool, anything like that to get it broke loose, all you're doing is creating carpal tunnel. Nerve damage.
Them are in inserts as well, ain't they?
Yep. Those inserts, and they don't have to be real tight.
But you don't want to break your insert loose.
Oh, you don't want to break it. And I'm used to that air ratchet, and that's not extremely tight. I can break that loose with a wrench. But basically that supports the weight of the intake here and here, because right here is your center bolts. It's supporting all that mats right in the center, so you want to support them on, they want to support it on the outside edge. So if you leave them out, you think, they don't need those. Well, we'll see what happens to you.
All right, now we get down here on this. It's that lower one. Is it a stud?
It's a
stud you showed me?
It was a stud with a bolt, like a, it's a bolt with a stud end on it. So we got that. Now, if you choose not to put your harness retainers back, or you break them, you don't do this. Now that's not a harness, but a hose. But your harness retainers back, you're asking for a chafing situation. You chafe on the ground, you can actually cause a check engine light, failure, vehicle to break down, engine to die. Every once in a while my car breaks down. Well, that wire rubs and it hits and grounds out, shuts the car down. Come on, do it right.
Very hard to find.
So I'm going to put this retainer on. Here we go. And you can see right here, it was a pain to put on, but if I hadn't put that on, that stud would actually been pushing that harness, worn into that harness, and it could have, if it actually got in between an unfused wire or wire that was powered, it could melt the whole harness. All kinds of different things. Just, tornadoes, sharknadoes, whatever. It could happen like that. Do it right, people.
Corona. You could get Corona from not putting that on there.
So I think we got everything connected here except for that. That's.
Are you fixing something?
Okay, so drain the oil, fill the oil up with the proper amount of oil. There will be a little bit more oil lost because you did take the cooler out, so you can lose some extra oil there. So double check your engine oil level and adjust it accordingly. You can do that, right? Filled up the coolant, got it full. I've already started the car. I disabled the vehicle from starting just to pump the oil pressure up so you wouldn't have a dry start, rattle. You can go ahead and start it up, it's up to you. Pump that up, got it pumped up, got the right amount of oil, or at least close. I'm going to top it off in a minute. So we're going to do a start up and see how it goes. Watch the flying car. Check engine light, oil pressure indicator, which is your little port spout, it's gone. So we're good. Complete repair. I did buy the part factory from Jeep, so that's where I got my part. You can find them online. I don't know the quality of them, but I went back to the factory part. I'm Adam Fitch. I'm a master GM, Toyota, and Saturn technician. Have a nice day.
I'm just going to put it on just like it is. Most of the time, my hands in the front of the lens.
Yeah. Start from the beginning. So what?
Can we do this all over again and see what it looks like if we do it from the other side of the car? Butters is a distraction. He's
I haven't bothered y'all the entire time y'all been doing
a drag on the economy is what he is.
I
He's just a drag on the economy, but I wouldn't.
People out there, don't forget.
You want to be in the next video?
What kind of video?
It's not going to be icky, is it?
Export Butters coming at you. These cars today. Butters coming at you. Boom, 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 boom.
Big.
See how this works? I do all the work. They sit there and crack do whatever.
all-
they
We're
do.
enjoying
Turn
life.
around and he
They
gets
make
all the
money,
views,
too.
and he's gonna get royalties. You think he's gonna give you a cent? Hell no.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
all
hope
the
Jim has a good Saturday next week. If he comes in and he makes 2 hours instead of our 18 we had or 20,
Oh,
whatever it is.
ain't gonna be a crybaby like you're fixing to say. I'm old. I shouldn't have to work for money.
Hey, I want to know
That's what the old folks want.
that old man white step you got on your driver's side to help you get in. Did that come with a free blue handicap tag for your mirror?
Where do you get those?
I think you can pull it in that truck and have a handicap sticker.
I'll pull in that. Yeah, I'll pull in that.
Get you
Handicap parking in my truck.
You're gonna have to get a wheelchair lift to get you up in it without the wheelchair.
Hey, maybe I'll paint that step with a handicap sign.